The following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Access Television, the City of Oshkosh, the Oshkosh Cable Television Advisory Commission, or Time Warner Cable.
Everyone, welcome to another edition of Eye on Oshkosh. I'm Cheryl Hentz. However, my usual co-host, Melanie Bleckel, is unfortunately not able to be with us tonight. However, I am pleased to be joined by a good friend of ours, Mr. Paul Esslinger, who I'm sure most of you know from the Oshkosh Common Council. So thank you for pinch hitting tonight, Paul. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much.
That having been said, the home heating season is right around the corner. Some of us are happy about that, some of us are not, but nonetheless, we can't avoid it living in Wisconsin. And the focus of this particular edition of Eye on Oshkosh is to talk about home heating issues, things that you can do to save on your bill, things that you should be doing to get your home ready for winter as far as from a furnace standpoint, an insulation standpoint, what have you. All kinds of little tips and tricks that, that you can be doing to get ready, not only for the heating season, but to hopefully cut down on the energy costs that you're spending every month. And to help us kind of delve into those issues, we are very happy to be joined by two gentlemen tonight. Bob Hernke from Wisconsin Public Service. Bob is to my left. And to his left is Jay Merrill from EC Merrill. They are a heating contractor.
That's
Do you
correct.
do anything else?
We do plumbing, heating, and air conditioning.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, welcome to both of you, and thanks
you.
very much for being here.
Sure,
We
thank
appreciate
you.
it. You know, energy costs continue to go up, and I'm not going to beat you up about that, Bob. I know you don't. You don't go to the Public Utility Commission and set the rates. I know. But they do continue to go up, and
Sure.
you know, you guys are building more plants, and you know, you have to fund for those things and that kind of thing. We all understand that. What is the outlook? I mean, I know that you guys got a rate increase. I think it was for this year, and you've applied for one for next year. Is that right?
Sure. Well, let's talk about natural gas, and that's really what I'd like to focus in on. There's a couple of components, Cheryl, to natural gas rates. There's the commodity portion, and that's really driven by the market. I think on the global scale these days, energy is really, and pardon the pun, a hot topic. If you look, you know, worldwide right now in China and India, demand for oil is at an all-time high. And because of that, when you have high demand, what happens to the price?
Goes up.
Goes up.
It goes up. And that's not only affecting oil, it's affecting every form of energy that we deal with. The commodity is something that public service has no control of. It's just like the gas station at the fuel pump. When you're here in Oshkosh and you go to the mobile station or the Quick Trip or what have you, each one of those dealers gets their commodity and the gasoline into their tank, and then they're making a very small margin on that product as they sell it to you. Well, we don't have tanks per se, but I'll go into that a little bit later. What we have at Public Service is a distribution company. We have pipes in the ground, and we have technicians that make sure those pipes are safe, installed properly, and that sort of thing. That's where we make our money, on that small margin for the investment that we have in the pipes in the ground.
Okay.
So, you asked about a rate increase. Yes, we've gone in for a rate increase, but our rate increase on that margin is 3%.
Okay.
That's what we've gotten from the Public Service Commission to raise our rates by 3%. Now, just in the last month and a half, we've had to revise the projections that we've put together on the cost of natural gas that we're purchasing to distribute to all of our customers. That cost is going up anywhere from 28% to 40% to some speculations now at 50% more for the upcoming heating season.
Wow.
That, yes, it is a wow. Luckily, at Wisconsin Public Service, we have done some things to offset or dampen that cost to our customers. One big thing that we do during the summertime, and this goes back to what I was talking about with those tanks in the ground, we're able to purchase a third of the needed supplies of natural gas for our customers during the summertime. And what we do is fill up some very large caves in Michigan with the natural gas, so then we can use that as part of our supply during the heating season.
Okay.
So right now we're projecting maybe a 20 to 25% overall increase in natural gas rates for our customers this upcoming heating season. Why am I hedging that a little bit? We don't know what the weather is going to be like. If it's colder and those supplies that we bought during the summer deplete faster, well, then we have to go out on the market and buy more. Conversely, if we do have a warmer fall and winter heating season, those speculators out there are going to get nervous and start selling off their futures for less of a cost, and that's going to help dampen and drive down the cost. So really the weather is going to have a big function on how this all plays out during the heating season.
And they're saying we're going to have a cold winter, so
Okay.
Bob, I have a question. When exactly does the heating season start, and is that when the rates go up? Is it a day, a week, or when is that? How long does it last?
It's supply and demand, Paul. It's really, the heating season, I think Jay could allude to this. When did you first start getting your first calls for no heat?
Typically, the heating season starts whenever someone decides, I need to turn on my furnace. And that's different for everyone. We would like it to start in mid-August. We try and get people to call early.
So when do the rates start going up then with that rate increase you were talking about?
Well, like the 3%, that's an automatic. There's a there's a start date for that. That started around September 1 for the 3% that we're making on our margin. But with the fluctuating market out there on the commodity, that does change daily. There's actually a daily, it's just like the stock market. You can go to the paper tonight and see what the cost of natural gas is going to be tomorrow. So there's really no start or stop date. But of course, as it gets colder and the demand starts to go up, that's when the prices start to go up, if there's not adequate supply coming into the system. So there's really no one particular day that it does start, and it does change daily. And we do have marketers within the company that are buying gas on a daily basis. In fact, some of our very largest customers are on something called an interruptible rate, where they're actually projecting what they're going to use the next day. And if they go over that amount, they're actually penalized for using too much of our system gas. But that's getting way too technical. I think what we want to do today is really talk about our home or our residential heating supplies. And those are pretty much, other than the quantity portion, locked in for the heating season, other than that fuel charge adjustment factor that we're going to see out throughout the year because of the high prices right now. I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about the typical average home heating customer.
sure.
What do you think you pay at home for an annual heating season? What do you think your natural gas bill is for heating? What would you estimate it to be?
I can tell
Cheryl?
you what, well, I don't know the gas specifically, but my total bill with heat and electricity, last winter I had some months where it was $600
Per month.
per month. Yep.
Okay.
For a couple of those months, yeah.
Okay.
In the winter, it usually hovers around 400 to 600.
Okay. Paul, do you?
I've got a newer home. Mine was built about 5 years ago, and so it's pretty energy efficient. But Mine usually were in mid 300 range.
Okay.
I've saw some that were 400, but nothing really more than that.
Okay.
That was my total bill.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And
I
think
did have to
that's-
get a new furnace though a week before Christmas last year, and
Okay.
so I am hoping that my bill will be less this year.
Okay. Well, you got it before Christmas. You must have seen a little bit of benefit then throughout the rest of the heating season.
I was on the budget plan,
Okay.
which I know we're going to talk about
Yes,
later,
we'll
so we
talk-
won't get
yes.
into that now. But
Well, let me
So
tell
I
you what
didn't-
the average customer sees. About a $700 net heating bill for the entire heating season. And generally that starts, you might say, the first to middle part of October through, the middle part of April, maybe late April, depending on, again, what the good Lord gives us for, harsh weather here in Wisconsin. So about $700 a year. Now, with what we're projecting right now, seeing that 20% increase, we're going to see about $140 more piled onto that. And if you look at, a 6-month window of heating, that's going to be about $25 to $30, well, I should say about $25 per month to the average customer that they're going to be spending more or over and above for their heat. Works out to be a little bit less than $1 a day with this, what sounds like a massive increase, 20 to 25%. So I mean, it is manageable, and we will go into some of the programs later on how we can level those off for customers and make it, more palatable. Hearing increases is never a good thing, but there are some strategies out there to help customers.
I've got a question for Jay.
Sure.
My house, again, was built about 5 years ago. Do I need to get you or someone in there, or can I do it myself, checking my furnace? Or
Absolutely.
is that something I should do? Have anything, the pipes all checked out? Can you give your opinion on that?
Sure. We would recommend, and most contractors will recommend, an annual inspection of the heating system. And it should be done for a couple of different reasons. First of all is safety. You've always got to pay attention to any kind of a product that's going to be using a fuel where you're going to have combustion byproducts. Make sure that it's operating safely and venting the fumes out of the home. That's a fairly simple process. In addition to that, you want to make sure that it's burning at peak capacity and peak efficiency. Simple things that the homeowner can do for themselves would be changing filters, for example. A dirty filter can cost you 20% on your heating bill. If it's blocking the airflow, you're going to cause high temperatures in your heat exchanger. That's also bad for the furnace, by the way. But those high temperatures in the heat exchanger relate directly to high flue gas temperatures, and that's dollars going right up the chimney. So, simple things like keeping a filter clean, homeowners certainly can do that for themselves. But checking the system for safety and proper operation probably should be left to professionals. And yes, we do recommend at least annually. That's probably true for 90% of the furnaces out there. If the furnace is a year or two old, you might skate by. But remember, that's what you are doing. Is if you don't do it, you're skating by. You're borrowing trouble.
Do you have a standard charge for coming out and checking things?
Yes, we do. A standard charge on a forced air heating system would be $79.95, and that's going to be a complete safety inspection of the system and an operating inspection to make sure that it's doing everything it's capable of.
Okay.
Is that always good to do just like a week before the heating season begins? Or
Oh, yeah. As soon as it gets cold, then wait 3 days and call.
And of course, we say all this very tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah,
right.
In fact, I'm going to be talking to him after the show. I'm going to come over.
Actually, the strategy to use, folks, is probably in the middle of summer. It would be a good time to call your heating contractor. They're looking for something to do. They might be able to wrap up, looking at your air conditioner and your furnace at the same time. Do a joint safety check at that point in time. And
Exactly. As a
save
matter of fact,
yeah.
we'll discount it if you check the furnace and the air conditioner together. we'll give you a discounted price to do both, as opposed to checking the air conditioner in the spring, checking the furnace in the fall.
Well, now I have a question. There's got to be several different brands of
Yes.
of furnaces. If I have you come over and you don't sell that brand, I mean, can you service all of them, or do you have to go back to the person that put it in?
No. You can call any qualified contractor, should be able to service 99% of all of the furnaces you're going to see out there. Yes, there are a few strange animals left around that you might find a technician is unfamiliar with. Gravity furnaces, very popular 50 years ago, are not a thing of the past, but you don't see them real often. If you're burning oil rather than natural gas, you're going to find many technicians that do not have the proper training to service an oil furnace. So you want to make sure that when you call, give the contractor all of the information, what type of a furnace you have, how old is it approximately, so that they can make sure they send out the right person to do the job for you.
Do you see a lot of homes that burn the oil, like you were just talking about, the propane or whatever?
The oil, which is fuel oil, we see quite a bit, especially in the outlying areas, not so much in the city of Oshkosh, but we service Fond du Lac as well, and there seems to be a lot more oil customers in the Fond du Lac area than there are here in Oshkosh. LP gas, or propane, is completely different than oil. It's going to use the same appliance with some minor adjustments to it that the natural gas burning furnaces would.
Okay. All right.
In fact, that's always a good strategy too. If you're off of the natural gas pipeline, it's good to go with a propane unit, because if that pipeline does get out to you eventually, at least your appliances are very easily convertible to natural gas at that point in time.
Okay. I know we kind of had a little bit of an outline here, and safety was one of the issues to talk about later on. But since we did kind of jump into that, and I know that you're not a chimney cleaning guy,
Sure.
but since the chimney is directly attached to the furnace, it is, I've heard, a very good idea, even if you don't have a fireplace, to still have your chimney checked once a year. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Checking a chimney it's part of the flue associated with any appliance, whether it's natural gas or LP gas or oil or just the wood-burning fireplace. All of those chimneys should be inspected annually. Now, the inspection can range widely on what's necessary. If you have a masonry chimney, for example, that's going to be a fairly rough interior surface, and it's going to be susceptible to the acids produced from burning natural gas. So you would treat that differently than you would for an aluminum Class B chimney that was being used for natural gas. One, you want to make sure that the masonry isn't coming apart on because of the flue gases. The other, you're pretty certain that it isn't, but you might want to inspect, for example, for bird nests built on top of it. It's a smaller opening and more easily blocked by animals or other debris. We've seen leaves in them on the steel combustion furnaces where we have the PVC venting going out the side of the house. That we see children will find that's a good place to store their marbles. Squirrels will find a good place there to store their acorns. And we found bees' nests inside of them in the past. All of these things. Most of the time, those types of things will prevent the appliance from operating, but not always.
Yeah, another question for you. Obviously, when someone comes out and they have a problem, there's something that they probably should have taken care of previously. But when you go out on these maintenance calls, when someone just says, hey, can you come out and check things, can you give me a percentage, the amount of time that you go out where there is something wrong, and can you give a percentage of when there's something seriously wrong that, thank God, that they actually called you? I mean, can you give an estimate on that?
Well, the percentage of times that we actually find a serious problem where it's a life issue, very low percentage, maybe 1% or 2% of the time where we'll actually find an obstruction in a flue, for example. I'd say it's probably 30 or 40% of the time that we find an issue that should be addressed, either for efficiency's sake or for reliability's sake. Reliability really plays into our heating systems because Murphy's Law tells us it'll be 2 o'clock in the morning when it's 20 below zero that it fails if you don't have it checked.
I'm living proof of that.
On Christmas,
A week before,
a week
yeah.
before Christmas.
I woke up wondering, why the hell is it so cold in this house?
Yeah.
And as high as I cranked that thermostat up, it just wouldn't get
Just wouldn't
warm.
help. Yeah.
So the $80 to $100 or whatever it is for you to come out and check things out will more than pay itself off if they find that it's been inefficient or
Well,
a filter need to be changed or something
Certainly,
like that.
yeah, and it's not only filters that are going to cause this. If a dirty filter, if it's dirty for very long, is going to start to allow the dust and so forth to bypass, and then it will collect in the heat exchanger. It will collect in an air conditioning coil if you have air conditioning in the plenum. It will collect in the squirrel cage fan, and all of those things are going to lead to overall inefficiencies in operation.
Okay.
Are there any other safety issues then, as long as we are on that particular topic?
Yeah.
Any other safety
Sure.
issues that folks need to be aware of then?
Well, checking the burners themselves, making sure that you have a good, reliable pilot, making sure that the burners themselves are clean. Oftentimes we're concerned about carbon monoxide gas, and that being the silent killer really can create a lot of fear. Let's alleviate a little bit of that fear and say that most furnaces, even if their flue is blocked and they're venting the flue gases directly into the house, are not producing carbon monoxide gas. If they're burning efficiently, they're going to produce primarily water vapor and carbon dioxide. It's only when the burners become dirty so that you don't get a proper blend of the air and the fuel that they'll begin to produce the carbon monoxide. So making sure that that portion of the system is operating properly, getting a proper flame, is going to go a long way to helping the system, even if you do have a cracked heat exchanger, for example, that gets undetected. You may have a little bit of an obnoxious smell, but at least you don't have the poisonous gas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we're right now talking about the furnaces, but a lot of homes have fireplaces.
Sure.
You know, and sometimes those fireplaces are only used around the holidays. We're coming up to Thanksgiving and Christmas, and there, if those fireplaces or Franklin stoves, those types of things aren't used very much, it's a good place where the squirrels or the birds like to build a nest. People start, their fires there, and then all of a sudden, at the end of the night, maybe there was enough of a draft up that chimney to pull out the products of combustion while the fire was very hot. But then, as the night goes on and that starts to cool a little bit, now instead of venting up the chimney, that carbon monoxide starts coming into the house. And it can be pulled in through, a number of areas within the home and can cause some very ill feeling. I mean, if you get that dizzy, headachy, sleepy feeling, with a fire somewhere, burning out in the house, that means that you're getting poisoned by carbon monoxide. That's why carbon monoxide detectors are now readily available out there.
Yeah.
They're relatively inexpensive. They're about, $35, $40 at
Some
most.
cases even less than that. yeah.
Okay. And it's a really good thing to have on hand. Even if your furnace has been serviced and your water heater and gas dryer are all working at peak efficiency, you still want that CO detector in the home.
I bought one for my house about 2 years ago, and I have it in the hallway of my second floor.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good place, a bad place, or where do you suggest?
That's a good place for one carbon monoxide detector, because it's in a location that if it detects something or it's set off, it's going to be loud enough that it's going to rouse you from a sleep.
Right.
A secondary location, which I believe is equally important, is close to the appliances that are burning natural gas or fuel oil,
An
whatever.
early warning device.
That way, if carbon monoxide is heavier than air, it's going to settle in those lower areas of the home. So you could have a concentration of 40 or 50 parts per million in your basement and be almost non-detectable on a second floor.
Right.
You, at 40 or 50 parts per million, if you're in the basement doing laundry and doing other chores, that's going to be enough to give you an ill effect from it.
Okay.
I wanted to go back for just a second, Jay. You had mentioned checking, pilots and burners and this kind of thing. How much of this stuff, can the average homeowner do and feel confident that they know what they're doing? Or is this something where a contractor should really, I guess my point would be this: if someone calls you or another heating contractor to come out and do a pre-heating season inspection, do you check all of these things?
Yes, we would check all of these things when we come out. Now, many homeowners change their own filters, for example, and this is a good practice, especially when you have the less expensive filters, 1 inch thick, that are going to need to be changed every month or so. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone out on a service call and the homeowner say, yes, we change the filters regularly, and there's the dirty one sitting right next to the furnace and a brand new one inside of it. So I know they checked it the day before I came out. And that's human nature.
Yeah.
So we're going to, even if someone tells us we're changing our own filters, we're going to check it. If someone tells us, you know what, we've cleaned it, all we need you to do is come and inspect it, we're going to make sure that it's clean. It doesn't make sense for us to come out and do half of a job.
Okay. Yeah, because that was my one concern. I think most of us can change filters, but you start looking at pilot lights and this, that, and the other, and some of us might feel a little out of our territory.
Just a little bit out of realm.
Yeah. So okay.
And with the circuitry, they're really like looking into a computer these days.
Yeah.
I mean, the newer furnaces are very high tech.
Very high tech and very small.
Right.
Very small.
One other thing I wanted to ask you about is, when I built my house, I should have had a dual zone climate.
Yes.
And mine is downstairs, and so at night it gets cooler. It's probably 3-4 degrees cooler upstairs. Is it, and this is a little bit off the subject, but is it real expensive to put another thermostat in an upper? Is that something that's easily done or not?
It depends, and it's actually not that far off topic, because part of what we're trying to do is describe methods that people can save energy.
Right.
And a zoned system will save energy. It allows you to set that upstairs zone to a cooler temperature at any time you're not going to be there. Perhaps you like it cooler all of the time in the upstairs zone because you like it cooler when you're sleeping.
Right.
So zoning can save energy. Now, there are some things that if you don't have zoning already in place that can help. Running a constant fan will help even the temperature throughout a home. Instead of having as much as a 10 or 12 degree spread from the warmest spot of the house to the coolest spot, you can make that only a 1 or 2 degree spread simply by letting that fan circulate all the time. The downside to that, you're going to see some what feel like cool breezes. Remember, it's still going to be the air temperature of the house, but if you're outside on a nice warm summer day and there's a little breeze, it feels cool to you.
Right.
And even ceiling fans in the dead of winter work on the very slowest speed and in a clockwise direction. That helps to move that very warm air at the ceiling back down to the floor level. So you start moving that around very slowly to mix things up, because depending on how tall your ceilings are, you could see as much as a 3 to 4 degree temperature difference between the floor and the ceiling. So by moving that air very slowly, you mix it up.
So in the summertime, you want the ceiling fan sucking it up or down?
Counterclockwise.
Counterclockwise,
Okay.
right.
All right.
Yeah. Then you want them, counterclockwise is the right way
And then
to
in
describe
winter,
it.
clockwise.
Right.
So, okay.
Exactly. The other thing, going back to what Jay was talking about, for every 1 degree that you can set back your thermostat, now 1 degree isn't very much, but for every 1 degree that you can set it back for an 8-hour period, you can save 1% on your monthly heating bill, or that daily heating bill, I guess would be a better way to describe it. But if you could do that for each day during the 30 days, you'd save 1%, during the month. So for every 1 degree you can set back in an 8-hour period, you're doing yourself a favor. Now, if you're cold at that temperature, let's say a 1 degree difference does make you feel a little chillier, you can use a spot electric heater. There's these smaller ceramic electric heaters. Now, electricity is not cheap, but if you use it properly, and instead of heating your whole house, but just that area where you're sitting to maybe read a book or, you know, do whatever we do during the winter time here in Wisconsin in the home, it really is a good strategy, because then you're just heating that area where you're at instead of your whole box.
Right.
But
So-
should not probably use those as a method of heat where for that particular area you leave this thing running all the
Right,
time.
you don't want
right?
to leave. You
I mean,
have
that's
to.
a hazard
right,
in and of
you
itself.
have to be
wouldn't you think?
very cautious. You know, you have to be energy wise and just use it while you're there, and turn it off when you're gone, or you know, move it with you if you're moving to the kitchen to prepare a meal. Maybe that's where you'd move it to.
Is
Of
it
course, then
safe-
you have your stove and.
Is it safe to use those space heaters at night while you're sleeping, though?
Well, if you have a new one, you know, it's hard to generalize everything, but the new models do have a tip-over feature that if you tip it over, they have a mercury switch that will automatically turn it off. So they are much safer these days. They're not like the old ones. In fact, be very cautious. If you do have one of the older models, check the cords. You know, make sure you do unplug it before you go to bed, because if it would tip over, you'd have a real problem.
Well, and I've noticed that those cords get hot very quickly. They really do.
They're
And-
putting
and
a lot
see,
of energy
that's-
through there. They could be,
And that's a concern for me. I mean, the last thing
Yeah.
I would want is a
especially if
cord
you have an
to-
older carpet on the floor. Don't put them underneath the carpets, or where people are walking. You should never put a cord underneath the carpet. So yes, those are all valid.
You want to be
concerns.
cautious with pets as well. They'll chew on the cords.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Those doggone pets, they do it every time. Okay, so we've looked at what we have to look forward to from a budget standpoint here, a cost standpoint, and safety features and issues. Getting our homes ready for the winter. I mean, we're taping this right at the end of October. By the time it airs, it's going to be, I think this will air probably the second week in November. We're getting close, guys. What do we do? What should folks be doing?
Well, I'd start out by making sure that any source of air leakage where we might lose heat or have access for the cold winds to blow in, let's get those sealed up. Weather stripping around your doors, especially on storm doors. We see a lot of the storm doors that have the magnetic seal. But if the plastic around that magnetic seal has torn, it's not going to seal any longer, and those can be replaced. You see other older doors that will have a piece of weather stripping in place, and if that becomes frayed and worn, it's not going to be as effective as it is when it's new and in good condition. So I would inspect around your doors for those types of things. Make sure that your doors actually fit and close properly. Another issue, the same thing applies with windows. If the locks on your windows don't pull the sash close together, you've got a tremendous amount of air leakage there even without a wind, and when you get a good stiff wind, it'll darn near stand the curtains away from the wall. So we want to be sure that our window locks and our sash are properly fitting. We want to be sure we've got a good caulk joint around all of the windows between the structure and the window frame itself. Some minor things, you'll see the insulator kits that you can put in front of older windows. They can be very effective at saving energy. Things like making sure the dampers to our exhaust fans, from a dryer vent, for example, or for a bathroom fan, or from a kitchen hood, they all have backdraft dampers in them. And those backdraft dampers, if they become wedged open or lodged open for some reason, can allow a lot of energy and warm air to escape. Making sure that our flue dampers on our appliances are fitted properly and working properly is another big loss. Anything that's going to cause air infiltration, either into or out of the home, is our enemy when we're trying to save energy.
Well, and in this community, as well as many right in this immediate area, we've got such old housing stock
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
so many parts of the community that I'm sure that, poor windows, is an issue for a lot of folks.
That's a big
and,
issue.
And probably doors that don't close exactly tightly the way
Right.
you were talking about. and
So
forth.
those are some of the things that can fairly easily be done by a homeowner, or at least checked by a homeowner. And then if you find that you have a problem, call a professional and have them fix it for you. Some of the things that probably should be on a professional level to begin with would be insulation. Primarily, I guess the first place I would look is in the attic. Back in the 50s and 60s, pretty standard insulation in an attic would have been 6 inches of fiberglass or an R19 value. We would recommend now that it be a minimum of an R38 and probably even higher than that. Blown-in insulation is very inexpensive when compared to the cost of fuel. Then the insulation around the sill box in the basement is another location that we see many homes are inadequately insulated.
You want to describe what that sill box is?
Sure, the sill box would be that area right between the foundation, which would be stone or concrete block, and the wood structure of the home. All of the 2x12s or 2x10s, whatever you have for floor joists, have a pocket at the end of them, and that pocket should be stuffed full of insulation over the top of the foundation. If it's done, you've got 1 foot approximately of your home that's now insulated that didn't used to be. And remember, if you've got 8-foot walls on a single-story home, 1 foot is about 12% of your total wall area that's uninsulated.
Jay, one thing that I guess I don't know if it's true or not. Maybe you can comment on this. Especially in the older homes, in the wintertime, depending on what exposure you're looking at, if you don't see any snow on the roof, you have a big problem with the attic insulation. I mean, is that generally true? I mean, if you're on a southern exposure, you know, the sun is, if you have a black roof, it's probably going to melt that away. But I mean, is that generally true?
It's real difficult to tell, Paul. Some homes just naturally blow free of snow. If you're, I live on the lake where the wind comes whistling across, and if there's snow on my roof, it's because it came down, it was good and wet, so it could stick there. But some homes, if the snow is piling, maybe an example would be if the snow is standing on your garage roof and not on your home roof, there's a good chance that you've got the problem with insulation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Well, I guess that kind of segues into another question.
Sure.
Is it a good idea to have the garage insulated? And how much does that, I mean, percentage-wise, can you say it'll increase your efficiency in your home, or does it help?
Well, if you have a common wall between the garage and the home, hopefully that wall is well insulated to begin with. But I can give you some anecdotal information based on homes that are built with unheated garages, but the garages are insulated. Usually that garage will stay above freezing most winters.
Really?
Just by having insulation there, as opposed to an uninsulated garage where it's going to be close to the temperature outdoors. So that gives you an idea of how much energy is escaping through that insulated wall, and you're capturing it to offset the loss that you would have in the garage. It's going to keep your car in better condition,
Right.
easier for it to start up, get the oil moving more quickly. So there's some advantages from that viewpoint. And it is going to save energy in the home as well, because that temperature difference, the delta T across the wall, instead of being from 72 down to -20, is now 72 to 32. You're going to have half the energy lost through that wall that you otherwise might have.
Right.
And as long as we're talking about garages, that's another source of carbon monoxide. When people, in the coldest parts of our winter, start their cars, make sure that you open up that garage door at least, a foot or so, so that the products of combustion from your car escape outside instead of going into the home.
Right.
That's another important safety factor.
Right.
Anything else from a safety or preparedness?
Well, I wanted to talk a
standpoint?
little bit more. Jay was talking about some of the things that the homeowner can do as far as sealing up or air sealing the home. There is a bureau here in the state called Wisconsin Focus on Energy. It's being funded by all the state Class A utilities. Wisconsin Public Service provides $18 million a year to focus on energy to provide programs to homeowners in our service territory. And one thing that they do is offer rebates on doing a blower door test with a qualified insulation contractor. What a blower door does is actually you put this fan at your entrance door into the home and you suck the air out, and they can tell from the amount of volume that's coming out from that blower door how many leaks you have in the house. And then a qualified contractor can go around with a smoke gun or a smoke candle or like a chalk powder and tell you exactly where all of the little nooks and crannies are that are leaking in the house. It's just a higher level of doing what Jay was talking about earlier. And then they can go through and do a real thorough house sealing. And then they can recommend insulation in various areas. And by doing that both pre and post work, you can really get a very good idea of how much you're going to be saving per year.
And we do have the Focus on Energy's website up on the screen right now, but it is www.focusonenergy.com. For those of you who, sometimes, you know, the graphics are a little small to see, so I like to read them off as well.
Sure.
So,
and just to give you maybe a few statistics that I got from Focus on Energy, they've provided cashback rewards right here in Winnebago County for 300 central air conditioning units, but they do recommend, and the only thing that they'll rebate on are air conditioners that are 12 SEER, that's an energy factor, or higher. And I think, what are you seeing, Jay, as far as installations?
This past summer, we put in mostly 13 SEER and above air conditioners. We still had a few people that were going with the 12, but there is a new standard which is going to apply nationally of 13 SEER, and I believe the date for that is January of 2005.
Okay.
So we had a lot of our customers this year decided to go ahead and get ahead of the game a little bit. And so 13 SEER, and I believe that in fact I know the rebate for a 13 SEER air conditioner was $200, so that helps a lot to offset that cost differential.
sure.
And another thing that Focus has done, they've offered cashback rewards on 450 furnaces right here in Winnebago County, and again, those are for 90 plus efficiency furnaces. So they are offering those types of things, and I'd really suggest that if anybody's planning any type of work with weatherization, replacing a furnace, what have you, to get in touch with Focus.
Okay.
They really do a lot of work.
And for low to moderate income and mostly low, I guess, income, you know, if they can't afford something like this, there are other programs out there. I know AdvoCap
Exactly.
offers a wonderful program for folks
Yes.
where they do all kinds of weather stripping, windows, in certain cases, windows. I don't think they replace vinyl windows or
Yeah,
plastic
right.
windows, but I think that they do replace wooden windows. Furnaces, you know, they can help you out with a furnace. I wasn't able to take advantage of that, but
But they are a very good source.
they are
And
exactly. And so give AdvoCap a call here locally. There are other things, other programs that I'd like you to kind of share with us. Oh, and you've got AdvoCap's phone number right there.
yes, it's 426-0150. And I should just, if I've got this handy, I could give you just a quick rundown of a couple of these numbers here. If you're a one-person household and for a 3-month period you're making under $3,500 in 3 months, you're eligible for the program. If you're a 2-person household, if you're making less than $4,700 in 3 months, you're eligible for the program. So those limits are 150% of poverty value, so or of the poverty level. So they're really trying to help the people that need it the most
Sure.
with these programs.
And you know, Melanie and I, not that she's here to corroborate this, but we have talked in the past about things like this. You know, folks should not feel ashamed of taking
Right.
advantage of programs like this. If they're in need, that's what they're there for,
You know,
and more people
I
are
think that's a great
getting
point,
into
Cheryl.
need.
And I just want to ask the two gentlemen here, do you find that people with lower incomes generally are kind of ashamed that they can't do something and they let these things go and they create a lot of problems where it costs more in the long run to fix them? And from a safety standpoint, I mean, is it people that are having a hard time with that? I mean, is that the market we're having a problem with?
You know, it's again across the board. I think where I see the most reluctance is with the older population. They really feel that, you know, they're not deserving of this, or they shouldn't need to take advantage of this program, so they just won't do it. You know, and unfortunately, it's there for them. You know, it's there for everybody that needs it, and I really encourage people to apply if they're caught in that situation. That's why those dollars are there.
And you know, the thing is, I know we're throwing a lot of information and different numbers and websites and so forth at folks, but I would assume that if someone is in need and all they think of is to call Wisconsin Public Service, if they explain what their situation is, you have some of the best trained people, I will say that,
Right.
and you're always very good about directing people to a proper place.
Yes.
I'm assuming that the same would
Right.
hold true here.
Right here in Oshkosh, Kathy Cook is our consumer advocate. She will sit down with anybody and review all of the programs and confidentially, you know, look at the circumstances and get that person, him, her, or the family, in touch with the right resources to take care of their
Kathy Cook, you said. Kathy
yes.
Cook,
Yes.
consumer
And
advocate.
she's our consumer advisor.
Okay.
And the number to call always is 1-800-450-7260. That'll get you right in touch with our customer service. Just explain your problem, and the call will be directed right here to Oshkosh.
Okay.
Now, Bob, there is a policy also that if people get into a financial problem at certain times of the year that they cannot be shut off. Isn't that true?
Right, exactly. Right now, we're looking at the moratorium beginning on November 15th, and it goes through until April 15th, where we not only won't turn any customers off, but we're turning customers on that, for whatever reason, haven't paid their bills and haven't made other arrangements. Right now, we're getting all of those folks back on, so we don't have any problems during the winter time.
There are programs, your budget program. There's an automatic payment type program where it can
Exactly.
come out of your checking account. We're down to probably about 10 minutes here. Why don't we touch on some of those? The
Sure.
budget billing, I think, is one
Yes.
that is probably pretty highly used, I assume.
Right. Well, right now we've got maybe about 10 to 12% of our customers engage with our budget billing program, and I think a lot of customers don't quite understand how that works. What they see on the front end is that, hey, now during the summertime I was only having a $50 bill and I'm paying maybe $125. How does that work, where I'm giving you more money than the energy that I'm using? Well, first off, any dollars that we have that are over and above the amount of energy that you've purchased actually earns money. We're paying between 2.5% to 3% on any funds that we hold on to that are over and above, again, the energy that you've used. Anybody that would be starting the budget program today would probably be getting just the other advantage, where they would be using more energy than what they're paying for. So you were talking about some bills that were upwards of $400 to $500 to $600 a month. Your budget billing would probably be, on the average for the whole year, at maybe $150 to $180. And you would know that would be a level payment throughout the year. And you know, again, in that situation, we don't ask you for another 2.5% or 3%. We just charge you the same amount each and every month. And it's a great program. I'm on it. A lot of the folks at Public Service are on it, just because it just makes it easy. It's good for budgeting. You know exactly where you're at.
Well, let me ask you this real quickly then, Bob. You know, I am kind of waiting to see what this new furnace does for me.
Sure.
But if I find that the bills are that high again and it's taken a bite out of my pocketbook, can I call and be put on the budget program at any time?
Anytime. Anytime. We actually average out on the information that our call center people have. They know exactly what your average is right now. In fact, you could look that up online. If you go to wisconsinpublicservice.com, you can, with a very easy process, apply or get an application to get into our firewall and get your own billing information. You can get your billing history, your present bill. You can actually see online what your bill looks like electronically. And pretty soon you'll be able to monitor your daily usage. Right now we're going through the city of Oshkosh and putting in automated meter reading equipment where if you want to take a look daily on how much energy your home is using, you could pull that up on an
That'd
every
be a good
24
thing,
hour.
but boy, it might make me sick to my
Right,
stomach.
well, it might help you manage things a little bit better if you want to manage those details.
I got a question for you. I got a call from a gentleman actually yesterday. Was upset because he got a new meter, and there was a charge to get that new meter. There was like a $200 charge to get a new meter. These are the meters where you can, I guess, just go down the street and they read.
Well, I don't know. We are absolutely not charging for any new meters or metering equipment. We're doing that all as an investment within Wisconsin Public Service. So I'm not sure what he might have been referring to, but we're absolutely not charging our customers for this.
But you are swapping out meters, though.
We are
right?
swapping.
Okay.
We're not really swapping them out. We're putting on some new electronic devices on the meters that are reading the meters for us. Well, and I should say, in some cases, yes, we're putting on brand new meters too. That is true.
Okay.
That is true.
Yeah, I ended up
But-
with a new meter in my basement, and there was no charge to me for that.
Yeah. Well, unless it might have been a water meter. You know, I don't know
might
if
have been,
there's
yeah.
if it was a water meter. If he was calling the city,
Yeah.
might have been a water meter.
Now that I'm thinking
charge.
about that, probably was.
Yeah. Yeah.
What other kinds of programs, for
Well,
helping people out?
Sure. Well, like I said, if you marry the budget billing to our electronic funds transfer, that's a nice program too, where we can electronically transfer funds, and you set this up on the front end. You tell us, Public Service, I know my bill comes out on the 1st, but I would like you to take the dollars out of my account for that bill on the 20th of the month, on the 30th of the month. You can decide ahead of time when those dollars actually get taken out of your checking account for that monthly bill. So that's a nice program too, where you don't have to write out a check. If you're down in Florida or you're taking a vacation, you don't even have to worry about that bill. We still send you out the regular paper bill each and every month. You see exactly what you use. All of the information is there for you, but it just makes it all automatic.
Sure.
It's a nice feature.
If you're not set up on the electronic funds transfer, can you still pay your bill online?
Yes, you can pay online now. You can set that up when you go in and create your login account. There's a number of different screens that you can go to do exactly those types of things.
You know,
yes.
because one month somebody maybe want to pay it online, the next month they may want to just send a check
Sure.
in or whatever.
Sure, and you can
So,
do that.
Okay, all
Yep.
right, good. Anything else well, there is one other thing that I just happen to think of. I'm not sure what it's called, but I know people have. I've talked to folks who have applied for energy assistance in the winter months.
Right.
How do they go about doing
Right.
that?
Well, again, energy assistance is something that can be handled with our consumer advisor. And again, just call our toll-free number and let us know that you'd like to look into that program, and we'll get you all the information that you need. So again, that 1-800-450-7260 will get you hooked up.
What exactly is the energy? I mean, is it something where they get so much per month toward their bill, or is it just a one-time thing? Or
It's whatever. Again, it's more or less like budget counseling, taking a look at what you can afford to pay, what the family size is, what situation you're in. So it varies depending on the ability to pay.
Okay, all right. We're winding down here. We've got about 4 minutes left. Anything that we have not covered, and we've thrown out a lot of information for folks
sure have,
tonight. And so if you're not catching the show, if you're watching it and you didn't catch some of it, check out our replay times and catch it again. And
I do have one question for Jay, though.
Sure, go ahead.
The Murphy's Law
Sure.
situation. I mean, if your pilot light goes out or something happens with your furnace during the day, obviously it's pretty easy to get a hold of someone.
Sure.
If it's midnight and it's 10 below and that thing goes out and the temperature's starting to fall, can they call you?
Sure.
I mean, is there emergency service? And
We do offer 24-hour, 365 days a year service on an emergency basis. We have an answering service that answers our phone all of the time, and our technicians all carry cell phones and pagers so that the answering service will then call them out, and technicians usually will just call the homeowner back, find out the exact circumstances, and if service is required right then, they'll come out and take care of it.
okay.
And there's one other thing that I wanted to mention. If you're purchasing a home or if you already own a home, there is through WIDA, which is Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority, you can get home improvement financing through them. And I'm not sure if we've gotten their information up on the screen or not, but their 800 number is 1-800-334-6873. Again, that's 1-800-334-6873. Or if you have access to the internet, you can visit them online at www.WEDA, which is WHEDA.com.
Okay, well, I just have a couple of, we're still in the fall here a little bit, and a lot of the leaves are coming off the trees right now. People are going to be up there on their ladders, cleaning out gutters and that sort of thing. Just be very careful with aluminum ladders. We still have a lot of electric overhead services. Look up before you move those ladders onto your roofs. Make sure that you're free of any electric lines, and it's very hard to tell the difference between an electric line and a telephone line and a cable TV wire. So if you see any wires up there, just make sure you keep those aluminum ladders away from any of those wires, because that's very, very dangerous.
Okay.
Those wires are not insulated from public service, so it's a very dangerous situation. And roofs can be slippery.
Oh, yes.
When you're up there, just be careful.
Well, yeah, a lot of it's common sense, and then a lot of it is just taking that extra time and that extra
Exactly.
precaution, to be certain of what you're doing and to not have accidents. And, you can never prevent 100% of accidents from happening, but
Exactly.
hopefully you can reduce them a little bit. Jay, any closing thoughts from you real quickly?
Well, I just would want to emphasize for people to plan ahead when it comes to your heating systems. If you can avoid that service call when it's 2 o'clock in the morning and 20 below zero, that's going to save you a substantial amount of money just by planning ahead. So planning ahead, number one. Number two, think safety first. We talked about carbon monoxide detectors. For the 18 or 20 bucks for a second carbon monoxide detector, it could save your life. So plan ahead and think safety.
Okay, very good. Well, listen, thank you both very, very much for being here. It's been informative.
Absolutely.
And it's been a fun hour.
Yeah.
It's something a little different from what we
Yeah.
normally do, but I think it was information that
We didn't beat anyone up?
no, we didn't beat anyone up.
What's up with that?
But it's information that I think is imperative that folks have, and any little.
If I could just say one last thing, November
real quickly,
15th,
we are almost out of
November
time.
15th, go to Culver's. 10% of their profits all go to the Keep Wisconsin Warm Fund. So go get a burger at Culver's. That's my little plug.
All right, very good. Well, thanks. Bob Hernke from Wisconsin Public Service, Jay Merrill from EC Merrill. Thank you to both of you.
You're
Paul,
welcome.
thanks for pinch hitting. And
My
thanks,
pleasure.
as always, to you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Until then, keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh. Take care.